Hi all, DT Neal here, talking about storytelling, writerly things, genre fiction, in this case, science fiction, specifically cyberpunk, because I can never stop talking about cyberpunk. I'm making a cyberpunk trilogy. It's called The Plastic Fantastic, and book one of that series, which is entitled SIGHTSEER, that novel comes out late month of May, so just a little over a month from today. And I'm really looking forward to that getting out there. I'm going to have that out on NetGalley if people are inclined to chase that one down. But I have a special fondness for cyberpunk. When I was 17, I first read Neuromancer by William Gibson, and of course I dove into Count Zero and Mona Lisa Overdrive and things like that. I've read the Bruce Sterling curated anthology Mirror Shades. I was a big fan of cyberpunk, and also at the time, same time, I was a big fan of punk rock, and so for me, there's like all this remembrance of that, and so The Plastic Fantastic is my honoring my youthful love of cyberpunk. A world away. It's like, the difference between 1987 and 2025 is cavernous. My 17-year-old self would never have imagined the world that we're in today and how many aspects of cyberpunk have manifested in our everyday existence. Just the primacy of cell phones and communication. I mean, that's monumental. Even though cyberpunk was pulling things into headwear, people talking in their heads through phone linkage, which is probably coming, barring some kind of catastrophic social collapse. Anyway, Sightseer is a love note across space and time for me to the cyberpunk genre, and I think readers of it, people who enjoy cyberpunk, will recognize that. They'll see the things that I've put in there, those notions and ideas that are very resonant within that genre, while at the same time trying to bring, it's not just the nostalgia piece, it's also, in my opinion, retooling cyberpunk to reflect today or more current issues, because as wonderful as cyberpunk was, and it was amazing at the time, it was conjured up in the 80s, and so it was reflective of 1980s things. Now, unfortunately, we're downstream of all those things, so a lot of the horrors that were depicted in cyberpunk and the crazy things were conjured up in the framework of the 1980s. In the 1980s, unfortunately, that ball rolled across the decades, and we're still dealing with a lot of the downstream terrible effects of a lot of the attitudes and ideas of the 1980s. That's how it is. For those of us, I hate to say it, but the Xers, we know this. Those of us who paid attention, we know it. I mean, you can see it. But that being said, there is, for me, narrative real estate to be mined effectively from that intervening period of time, those decades between when those cyberpunk classics were done versus now. And one of my goals as a writer was to get away from the arbitrary presence of mirror shades and trench coats. I mean, I'm just going to say that can be triggering, I suppose, for some. Now, I can't rule out that there's certainly mirror shades that come up here and there, because it's just kind of like, yeah, it's kind of fun, like a wink and nod. But I kept the trench coat. The trench coats were very light in there. I also moved out away from this sort of, the hustlers at the nightclub kind of thing. Now, there are certainly hustlers and there's certainly nightclubs, because it's hard to do cyberpunk without that idea of that. But I think what I'm trying to do is bring up still more of the virtuality, which cyberpunk touched on, but at the time, that was still a very radical concept for people, the idea of like a VR, virtual existence. Cyberspace was just, it was effectively pre-imagined by cyberpunk, and then it became there. And we still really haven't fully realized it in terms of what it can do. So what I try to do in SIGHTSEER is explore that with an eye to how things have evolved or devolved. The protagonist of it, his name is Cam, and he's what I would consider, I would call him a professional eyewitness. They call themselves lookers, and they are, imagine the most frenetic social media influencer who has basically traded their optics, and for a big part of them is having cyber eyes, and they are basically willfully throwing themselves into situations to garner traffic and viewers and audience and fans of varying degrees of intensity. You've got them all segmented. You'll see that. And Cam finds himself enmeshed in a gang-related plot that is that's more than he bargained for, and his own status as a looker makes him a target and a guinea pig for what some of these gang elements are doing. And I like it. I think it's an enjoyable story. It's a romp. And my intention, again, for the series, for the trilogy, is to carry that through. Again, my love of cyberpunk. Right now I'm working on book 2. I never really share my titles until the book is done. I don't. It's a little writerly superstition I have. I don't want to jinx it by like talking about it too much. But I am working on the sequel, and I'm looking. It's funny for me having with book 1 coming out next month. My brain is in that space, so I'm diving in, and I'm working hard on that one. I think book 2 will come out in 2026. It'll come out next year. And book 3 probably 2027. We'll see how it goes. But I really hope people can appreciate my love for the cyberpunk genre in this novel. And like I said, it'll be available on NetGalley if people want to read and review it. I think that would be great. I would hugely appreciate that. Otherwise, you'll see it. And there'll be other related Plastic Fantastic things that come out when that book releases. So keep an eye out. SIGHTSEER.